Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm excited to share with you how we are doing history this year without a curriculum. Now, I do have 5 kids that are ages 8 and under, but the history we will be doing is really just geared towards my 4th grader, 2nd grader, and a little bit my kindergartner as well. So we've been doing history without a curriculum for the last 6 to 9 months. But one thing that we are adding this year that I'm really excited about is a book of centuries that my 4th grader will be keeping. This is something that I'd heard about fairly recently and just really love the idea. It is big in the Charlotte Mason homeschooling world. And basically it is a timeline book that your student can keep. And what I really like about the one I found, which is from Living Book Press, is each spread has the one side that has the dates in there and where you will write down different information. And on the other side, it is blank where you can draw pictures or even have things printed off and paste it in, color it, whatever. And I also like that the earlier stuff, it has a page of prehistory, which I don't really care for. Actually, it has 2, 3, it has a couple prehistory. Okay, it has 3 prehistory sheets and then a prehistory to 6000 BC. So I don't really love that because I am a young earth Christian where I don't believe the world goes that much further back than 6000 BC. So I'm not sure, we probably won't use those pages. We'll probably start on this prehistory to 6000 BC. But I like that the earlier dates have a lot less space for them because clearly there will not be as much that you're putting in there. So these early dates have one spread for 1,000 years, and then it goes, after a little while, it goes to a spread for 5,000 years. I'm sorry, a spread for 500 years, and then it goes to eventually 100, and then I think in the more modern time it is just 10 years per spread. So I really like that. The other thing that's a little bit interesting is it goes all the way to 2050, which I like that it goes to present day and beyond because ideally my son will be keeping this till potentially end of high school. We'll see, but I like the idea of keeping this for a long time. And so I do like that it goes to a little bit into the future, but I don't think he'll still be keeping it when he's 30 something years old. But anyways, minor things. I really like layout. I like the hardcover. So that'll be really cool. And basically, as we read, I want this to be pretty independent for him to where I will give him ideas and I will suggest things, but I want it to be pretty independent. So we'll see how that goes, but excited to start using that. And then I have a stack of books here. I've got some chapter books as well as some picture books. And as we were doing Middle Ages, I believe the earliest ones are something around 500, 600, or 700 and something AD. So I have these mostly in order that we'll be doing them. The first one is a chapter book we will be starting pretty soon here, and it's called The Saragan Steed. And I think I got this at a thrift store, but it is the Good and Beautiful Publishing. It's a level 8 book, and so this is one that I will read with my 4th grader and probably my 2nd grader as well, but if it's not interesting to my kindergartner, I'm not gonna force him to sit and listen to it with us. But it does have pictures, which I really like. It always helps. That always helps for the younger ones to enjoy it more and want to sit along with us. Not a ton of pictures, but I don't know, maybe every 10 to 12 pages. Also, the chapters aren't super long, which again is nice when reading aloud to younger ones. And I believe this one was published a little while ago, 1960, which if you've seen many of my other videos where I share books, you probably know that I like older books. I prefer anything that was, if it was written at least 50 years ago, I usually like it. So we'll start with that, and while we were reading this, we will do a few picture books throughout because like I said, with the picture books, they're more for my younger ones, and so we'll kind of just do them side by side a little bit. So the next one I have is a book about knights and castles. And I think this will just be a really fun little introduction. We really haven't studied knights and castles very much, nor do we have very many books about them, partially just because I knew that we were going to be doing this soon. And so as I've gotten books from thrift stores, I've really been saving them and setting them aside. But this is just a fun little picture book that's got some different information about, like I said, knights and castles. And these kinds of picture books will not take us long to read, maybe even in one sitting, because my kids love picture books. So we'll see, but it looks like it's got a lot of cool information and should be fun. And you know, these books might be a good one for my 4th grader with his book of centuries, to copy some of the different pictures in here, and to, you know, that could be a fun thing for him. So I'll kind of keep that in mind as an idea to suggest to him. So that's the first picture book we've got. Next one is The Making of a Knight, and I've seen this one quite a bit. I think it's fairly popular, so I'm hoping it'll be good. This one, as opposed to that Knights and Castles one, is more of a story, which is fun, kind of mixed up a little bit. But I really love the illustrations, and it just looks like it'll be a fun one. Next up, we've got, kind of similar to that first one, another one about knights. This one's actually Knights in Armor. So this one has got all kinds of information here about if you were a knight, what kind of armor you would wear, what your battles might be like. So that'll be another fun and easy read, I'm sure. Then we've got another chapter book that we will probably start shortly after we finish this one, and is actually another one from the Good and the Beautiful library that I found at a thrift store, and it is The Falcon of Eric the Red. So this one is level 6, and again, like the first, it does have a decent amount of pictures, but it'll be kind of the same thing, where I will read it aloud, start by reading aloud to all of them, but it may end up being mostly me and my 4th grader, it might be mostly me and my 4th and 2nd. We'll just kind of see. At very least, I know my 4th grader will enjoy. Next we have one I'm real excited about, because these ones are not that easy to come by. I found it at a thrift store, and it's Leaf the Lucky by Ingrid and Edgar. I'm not even gonna try that. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I'm sure you've seen these before. I believe they're part of, I want to say, Beautiful Feet books. And so real cool illustrations, a lot of great information, more of a story format, kind of a living book format. So that'll be fun. We've learned a little bit about Leif Erikson and Eric the Red, but it'll be really fun because we'll definitely time these two to be reading very similar time, probably start this and then this one shortly after. So that will be fun. If I'm thinking that correctly, now I'm wondering if I'm remembering correctly that Eric was Leif's father. I'll have to double check that it's not the other way around, because I want to do them kind of in order. Anyways, next we've got more of a reference book, and that is the Usborne World History Medieval World. And so I've got a couple books like this, so I will just kind of read it here and there to try to time up the timeline with our picture books and chapter books. And to be honest, I don't know if this is one that I will read every page. I mean, I'll kind of go over it and figure out which ones I want to read, and I don't necessarily expect to read all. Also, sometimes with books like this, I like to just have out on one of our shelves so that my oldest and even my 2nd grader and kindergartner like to just flip through and look at the pictures. So we'll kind of see how much of this one we read, but it definitely looks like it has a ton of information. And I do like that each of the pages has, in the top corner here, it mentions where it is, and it mentions the date, which will be super helpful as I'm trying to do these in chronological order. Next, I got a fun one that is Find the Knights, and this is a really fun one I picked up at a thrift store recently. And for one, it does have a little bit of like information, educational stuff in it, where it kind of talks about it, but then it's a search and find, and so it's got these different things to spot in each scene. And so this is another one that I don't know if I'll read it to my kids and try to like do it with them, or if it'll more be something I'll just have for them to pick up and read and look at their leisure. Next, I've got a coloring book that was pretty cool to find, completely uncolored in at a thrift store. And I love these Dover coloring books. The pictures are very realistic, and I love that it has a little snippet of information about what it is. So these ones, what I might do is I might make photocopies of them. I don't know why, but my kids, when they color pictures in a coloring book, they pretty much always like to rip the pages out, and then most of them will end up just being left out on the floor and getting damaged, and I'll throw them away eventually. Some of my kids are better about, they'll put them in folders they have where they keep stuff like that. But like the whole point of a coloring book is that you keep them all nice, and I don't know why. But anyways, so because of that, I'll probably just photocopy them and then let them color them while I'm doing some of the chapter book read alouds and that kind of stuff. Next is not quite a reference book, but it's kind of similar. It's called Turn of the Century, and it has just a little snippet for each new century. So I believe it starts in the year 1000, and it has a little snippet of like some character, and then it has some different facts about that time. And so this is one that we will read as we go, again, to line up chronologically. And this one also has fun illustrations. I just think that's so cool. What do you call that? The cross sections on some of the pages. Oh, look at that. Isn't that just cool? So this will be a fun one to read. Now I've got one that I'm actually not all that excited about. We'll see how good it ends up being. It's just a little early reader, The Minstrel and the Tower. And typically these kinds of books I don't find them to be as great as others, but it is an older one, so it's got that going for it. It's 1988. But I will probably pre-read this at some point soon and decide if I want to read it aloud to all my kids, or if I just want to let my oldest read it, possibly my second grader. So we'll see about this one. There's not really any reason I'm not excited about it. I don't know why. It just if you've read this one, let me know. Maybe I'm weird. Next is a book about Marco Polo, which is fun because I don't know a ton about Marco Polo, so that'll be fun for myself to read. Another one, I mean, I think all of these books were thrift stores. I pretty much don't ever, I don't say never, but I rarely buy books new. So I think all of these, if not maybe one or two, are from thrift stores. And so for the most part, I just get what I get. And this one, the pictures aren't all that great, but I didn't have anything on Marco Polo. So hopefully it'll be good reading. I'm excited to read it. Next, we've got The Door in the Wall, and I've heard good things about this one. Again, I'm not totally sure. Another one that we'll see if I read it aloud to all my kids, if it ends up just being my oldest and my first two. But I have heard good things about this one, so I have high hopes. Next is a book that I actually did start pre-reading myself. It's called Fine Print, a story about Johann Gutenberg. And I was reading it myself thinking that I would have my fourth grader read it this year as an independent read, a signed reading. And I realized that does actually be a good one to read aloud to all my kids. I think they would all enjoy it. It's got some pictures. It was I think I got maybe a third way through it, and it was pretty interesting and pretty well written, I thought. So that'll be fun. Then the last thing I have is a handful of books. I don't know what the series is called. They're these math books, like these night books, and I've read one or two of these to my kids before, but they're really fun. I'm not sure where I'm gonna work them in. I'll probably just kind of here and there put them in, but they're fun. What is this? Math adventure, they say. And there's Circumference and the Sword of Cones. They're really fun. They've got these different kind of play on words, and they're medieval times, so you've got the knights and the castles and all that, and there's some kind of math thing that you're learning. Most of the math stuff I'd say is more of a middle elementary at the lowest end of really kind of understanding that stuff. But even still, my younger ones have enjoyed when I've read the ones that I have read, just listening and, yeah, not necessarily understanding the math parts of it, but the math parts of it will be really good for my oldest. This one is Circumference and the Great Knight of Engleland. And I really like the pictures too. Pictures, you know, I love picture books. And if it doesn't have great pictures, then the book itself needs to be really, really good, because I definitely want good pictures. And this one is Circumference and All the King's Tens. And then the last one I have is Circumference and the Dragon of Pi. So I think these will just be a really fun one to work in, where they're just fun and kind of lighthearted and maybe a little silly. So those are the books we have for our medieval history this year. I'm honestly not sure how long I expect this to take. It'll take however long it takes. I don't really like to put a time limit or restraint on this kind of thing, because I want to just go at the pace that's the best for us. I don't want to rush it. I just don't want to rush it or not get as much as we can. I want to leave space for, you know, if we read something and it mentions something that we want to learn more about, then we can get more books from the library or somewhere, and just kind of to have space for those rabbit trails and tangents and whatnot. But I'm really excited to be doing this, because for the longest time before I started doing the history without a curriculum, I've been wanting to, because I have so many good books and there are so many amazing books, and it's hard to fit in all these good books when you have all the different curriculum, and it's hard too because there are a lot of really great curriculum. I've done some history curriculums that I've really loved. I definitely will get back to a lot of them, Generations history being my favorite at this point. And so probably after we finish this, which, like I said, I'm not putting a time restraint on it, but I expect it to be not the full year. I expect it to be somewhere in the ballpark of 6 to 8 months. We'll see. But after we finish this, I do plan to start doing some more Generations history. And one of my biggest struggles with homeschooling is there are so many different curriculums that I want to do, and there are different books I want to read. There's just so much stuff that I want to do. And if I tried to do it all, it'd be way too much. It'd be too much for my kids mostly, and eventually be too much for me, but that is my biggest struggle. So I'd love to hear in the comments, what are you doing for history this year? Have you always used history curriculums, or do you mix it with books, or have you ever done something like this before where you've just used books for your history? I also would love to hear if any of you have done your kids keep a book of centuries before. I would love to hear just any input on that, as like I said, we haven't done it before, and I'm excited, but still kind of like not 100% sure how it's gonna go, but I think it'll be good. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any other books that you know of that are from the Middle Ages, whether it's picture books or chapter books, I would love more recommendations that I could fit in. I don't really feel like I need more, but I'm always looking for more books. So please drop your recommendations or suggestions down in the comments, and I will see you next time.